Picture this. It's 3 a.m. A hypersonic missile screams toward New York at Mach 10. That's over 7,600 miles per hour. Traditional radars can't see it coming. By the time US systems detect it, there are just 6 minutes before impact. 6 minutes to decide the fate of millions. But here's the twist. The only reason America has even those 6 minutes. Canada. Welcome back to The Grid, where Jet Royce brings you the defense stories that matter. Today, we're diving into Canada's $38.6 billion secret weapon, a radar network so advanced it can see threats 3,000 kilometers away, bouncing signals off the ionosphere itself. This isn't just Canada protecting Canada. This is Canada becoming America's northern shield, the eyes that never blink, watching the Arctic while the world sleeps. And before you think, oh, Canada's just riding America's coattail, think again. Without Canadian territory, American radars, and Canadian innovation, the United States would be blind to 40% of potential missile approaches. That's right. The US literally cannot defend its homeland without its polite northern neighbor. So buckle up, because we're about to reveal how Canada went from hockey and maple syrup to building one of the most sophisticated defense networks on Earth. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. The world has changed. Russia and China aren't flying the same bombers your grandfather worried about during the Cold War. They're deploying hypersonic glide vehicles, weapons that travel at over 5 times the speed of sound, bob and weave through the atmosphere, and can deliver either conventional or nuclear warheads. These aren't science fiction. Russia has already used them in Ukraine. General Glenn Van Herk, former NORAD commander, testified before Canadian officials with a chilling assessment. Hypersonics will challenge my ability to provide threat warning and attack assessment going forward. Translation? The current systems are obsolete. Here's why hypersonics are terrifying. Speed. At Mach 10, a hypersonic missile travels 1,000 kilometers in roughly 5 minutes. That's faster than most people's morning coffee run. Maneuverability. Unlike ballistic missiles that follow predictable arcs, hypersonics can change direction mid-flight, making them nearly impossible to track with traditional ground-based radars. Low altitude. They fly below most radar coverage, exploiting the curvature of the Earth to stay hidden until the last possible moment. And here's the kicker. A 2017 RAND Corporation study found that hypersonic attacks give leaders as little as 6 minutes warning, about a quarter of the time you'd have for an ICBM strike. That's barely enough time to sound an alarm, let alone mount a defense. The North Warning System, that chain of Cold War-era radar stations across the Arctic, wasn't designed for this. Built in the 1980s to detect Soviet bombers traveling at specific speeds and altitudes, it's about as useful against modern threats as bringing a musket to a drone fight. Environmental degradation, outdated architecture vulnerable to cyber exploitation, and gaps in coverage mean the NWS is operating on borrowed time. Parts are so old, they're nearly impossible to replace. That's where NORAD modernization comes in, and Canada's about to make history. In June 2022, Canada dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through defense circles worldwide. $38.6 billion over 20 years to modernize NORAD. This is the largest investment in Canadian Arctic defense capabilities since the Cold War. But this isn't about incremental upgrades. Canada is building something revolutionary. Over-the-horizon radar systems that can see what conventional radars cannot. So, we need to understand first that how over-the-horizon radar actually works. Traditional radar? Limited by line of sight. If something's beyond the horizon, you're blind. Over-the-horizon radar, OTHR, bounces high-frequency radio waves off the ionosphere. That layer of Earth's atmosphere about 85 to 600 kilometers up that reflects radio signals. Think of it like a cosmic mirror. You fire a signal up, it bounces down thousands of kilometers away, hits a target, aircraft, ship, or missile, and bounces back the same way. Suddenly, your detection range jumps from a few hundred kilometers to over 3,000 kilometers. That's the difference between seeing a threat when it's already on your doorstep versus watching it leave its home address. The two-layer defense, Arctic and polar systems. Canada's plan includes 4 overlapping layers of situational awareness, but 2 radar systems form the backbone. 1. Arctic Over-the-Horizon Radar, A-OTHR. Purpose: early warning and tracking from the US-Canada border to the Arctic Circle Range, estimated 500 to 3,000 plus kilometers. Technology: based on Australia's proven JORN system. More on this jaw-dropping partnership in a moment. Location: Southern Ontario, Kawartha Lakes and Clearview Township. Timeline: initial operational capability by end of 2029. Cost: over $6 billion. The transmit site in Kawartha Lakes covers 163 hectares of land that will be flattened to accommodate a kilometer-long row of transmit antennas. The receive site in Clearview Township spans 288 hectares. 2. Polar Over-the-Horizon Radar, P-OTHR. Purpose: extends surveillance coverage beyond the Arctic Circle to the Canadian Arctic Archipelago Range. Very long-range surveillance across the polar region. Location: High Arctic. Specific sites classified, but project involves partnership with Inuvialuit Regional Corporation. Timeline: not expected to be operational until 2032 to 2033. Cost: estimated $1 to $5 billion. Together, these systems will provide continuous, overlapping coverage of Canada's entire northern frontier and approaches to the United States. Here's where things get fascinating. In March 2025, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney made a surprise announcement that stunned the defense world. Canada would purchase Australia's Jindalee Over-the-Horizon Radar technology for over $6 billion. Wait, Australia? Why not build it in Canada or buy American? Because Australia has been operating the world's most advanced OTHR system for over 2 decades. The Jindalee Operational Radar Network, JORN, is the gold standard. 3 radar sites covering over 13 million square kilometers of Australia's northern approaches, with detection ranges up to 3,000 kilometers. Why JORN is special? JORN can detect and track aircraft and ships simultaneously, day and night, in all weather conditions. It bounces signals off the ionosphere with such precision that it can distinguish between different types of targets at vast distances. BAE Systems Australia has been upgrading JORN with a $1.2 billion modernization program involving over 110 local companies. This isn't vaporware, it's battle-tested technology operating 24/7. The partnership between Canada and Australia is historic. This is Australia's largest ever defense export. For Canada, it means leveraging decades of Australian research, development, and operational experience while building domestic capacity. The Technology Partnership Agreement, signed in July 2025, enables both nations to work across government and industry to investigate technical challenges of OTHR operation in Arctic conditions, very different from Australia's environment. Further develop JORN technology for polar applications. Conduct detailed planning for manufacturing and commissioning in Canada. Canadian companies will work alongside Australian partners to build expertise and capacity in Canada, growing the domestic defense industry and supporting high-paying Canadian jobs. The US was reportedly interested in JORN first, but Canada jumped the queue, signing the deal before America could finalize negotiations. Talk about a power move. Now we enter the shadows. In February 2023, during congressional testimony about Chinese surveillance balloons, Pentagon official Melissa Dalton dropped a classified bombshell. we are working closely with our Canadian allies to modernize NORAD surveillance capabilities, including the development of a new system of sensors called Crossbow that will enhance NORAD ability to detect approaching airborne threats. What is Crossbow? Classified. What we know. It's a network of sensors with classified capabilities. It will be deployed across northern Canada. Specific locations are top secret. It complements the radar systems, filling detection gaps. It's designed to detect threats the radars might miss. It's part of the broader system of systems approach. Analysts speculate Crossbow could include ground-based sensor arrays, acoustic detection systems, advanced electronic intelligence (ELINT) collectors, passive detection systems that don't emit signals, making them harder to detect or jam, integration with the classified NORAD Pathfinder AI program. Crossbow represents Canada and the US, acknowledging that no single sensor type can cover all threats. You need layered, diverse detection methods working together. Radar on the ground and sensors in the north aren't enough. Modern threats demand space-based surveillance. Canada's NORAD modernization includes significant investment in space-based sensors. Defense-enhanced surveillance from space. Originally announced in 2017 and now accelerated under NORAD modernization. This initiative aims to increase Canada's space-based surveillance capabilities for tracking threats across all domains. Satellite integration. Canada's space technology leader, MDA Systems, has been at the forefront of satellite-based surveillance since launching RadarSat-1 in 1995. The current RadarSat-2 provides all-weather day-night surveillance, including detection of ships among ice flows and moving targets on land. Low Earth Orbit, LEO, satellite networks. Research and development funding includes exploring commercial and military LEO satellite networks for improved Arctic connectivity and resilience against attack. Hypersonic tracking space sensors. While primarily a US capability, Canada's integration with American systems like the Hypersonic and Ballistic Tracking Space Sensor, HBTSS, constellation, will provide high-precision target tracks for hypersonic threats. Space-based sensors solve problems ground radars can't. Global coverage without geographic limitations, persistent surveillance over areas too remote for ground stations. Detection of missile launches at the boost phase, immediately after launch. Resilience through distributed architecture. Destroying one satellite doesn't blind the entire system. Canada has committed $4.23 billion over 20 years to defense research and development, with significant portions dedicated to space systems and quantum technologies for secure communications. The AI brain, NORAD Pathfinder. Having the world's best sensors means nothing if you can't process the data fast enough. Enter NORAD Pathfinder. Pathfinder is an AI-powered software program that can see additional information from sensors by using artificial intelligence to process more data and detect threats traditional analysis would miss. Think of it this way. Your North Warning System radar detects something. Traditional systems flag it, classify it, and report it, a process taking precious minutes. Pathfinder uses machine learning to instantly analyze patterns, cross-reference with other sensors, predict trajectories, and provide commanders with actionable intelligence in seconds. Canada and the US are investing heavily in Pathfinder to advance machine learning and cloud computing for faster decision-making. When you have 6 minutes or less to respond to a hypersonic threat, every second counts. Pathfinder feeds into the broader US-led JADC2 initiative, a cloud computing network architecture that connects sensors from all military services into a single integrated network. Canadian sensor assets, including the classified Crossbow network, could link into JADC2. The goal: eliminate information silos so all services and agencies have the same critical information in real time. This is the system of systems approach. Ground radars, space satellites, maritime sensors, Crossbow, aircraft, all feeding data into an AI-powered command and control system that gives commanders a unified picture of threats across all domains. Canada operates 4 forward operating locations across the Arctic: FOL Yellowknife, Northwest Territories; FOL Iqaluit, Nunavut; FOL Inuvik, Northwest Territories; FOL Goose Bay, Newfoundland and Labrador. These aren't just airstrips, they're combat-ready facilities with hangars accommodating up to 6 fighter jets, space for up to 200 support personnel, fuel storage and refueling capabilities, strategic positioning to cover northern approaches. Canada's CF-18 Hornets regularly deploy to these FOLs for Arctic patrols. In January 2025, Canadian CF-18s launched from one of these sites to conduct combat air patrols in response to Russian military aircraft operating in the Arctic. NORAD modernization includes $15.6 billion over 20 years to upgrade these FOLs to handle Canada's incoming CF-35 fighter jets, 88 F-35s, replacing the aging CF-18 fleet. In March 2025, Canada announced the first 3 northern operational support hubs would be established in Iqaluit, Yellowknife, and Inuvik, building on existing FOL infrastructure to create year-round military presence and logistics hubs. Let's address the elephant in the room. Why does the United States, the world's most powerful military, need Canada? Geography, geography, geography. Canada controls 40% of North American landmass above the Arctic Circle. Any Russian or Chinese missile, bomber, or hypersonic weapon approaching from the north must cross Canadian territory or airspace to reach the continental United States. Without access to Canadian land for radar stations, Canadian airspace for fighter patrols, and Canadian cooperation on early warning, the United States would have massive detection blind spots. Established in 1958, the North American Aerospace Defense Command remains the gold standard of binational military cooperation. Since 1958, Canada and the US have signed over 2,500 bilateral agreements covering every aspect of North American security. Canada isn't a junior partner, it's a vital contributor. The United States can project power globally, but it cannot defend the northern approaches to North America without Canada. That's not opinion, that's geographic reality. So why can't the United States defend itself without Canada? Because threats don't respect borders, and geography doesn't care about politics. Russia's hypersonic missiles don't check their passport before entering Canadian airspace on their way to New York. China's bombers don't file flight plans with Ottawa before approaching Alaska. Canada's $38.6 billion investment in NORAD modernization isn't charity, it's strategic necessity. By building the world's most advanced Arctic surveillance network, Canada secures not just its own sovereignty, but the entire North American continent. The Arctic over-the-horizon radar will see threats 3,000 kilometers away, giving NORAD commanders precious minutes that could mean the difference between interception and catastrophe. The polar system will close the last gaps in coverage across the high Arctic. Crossbow will add classified layers of detection. Space-based sensors will watch from above, and AI will tie it all together in real time. This is Canada stepping up, not as America's junior partner, but as an equal guardian of North America. The US provides global reach and firepower. Canada provides the Arctic eyes and ears that make continental defense possible. Without Canadian territory, there are no northern radar sites. Without Canadian cooperation, there are blind spots. Without Canadian innovation, from A-OTHR technology partnerships to AI integration, the system doesn't work. That's why the United States cannot defend itself without Canada. Geography made Canada the gatekeeper of North America's northern frontier. NORAD modernization is Canada accepting that responsibility and building the most advanced Arctic defense network in history to fulfill it. As hypersonic threats multiply, as Arctic ice melts and opens new routes for adversaries, as technology accelerates the pace of warfare, Canada's radar network becomes the shield North America didn't know it desperately needed. So the next time someone asks, what does Canada contribute to global security? Show them this: a $38.6 billion radar network that can see 3,000 kilometers, detect hypersonic missiles traveling at Mach 10, and give North America the warning time to survive. That's not just impressive, that's indispensable. Thanks for watching The Grid. If you found this deep dive into Canada's secret radar network fascinating, smash that like button and subscribe for more defense analysis. Drop a comment. Do you think Canada's NORAD investments are enough? Should they do more? Let's discuss. Until next time, this is Jet Royce reminding you, in an age of hypersonic threats, the nation that sees first survives. Stay vigilant, stay informed, stay on the grid.